Today I want to show you what I actually do when a piece of work lands on my desk and it already looks finished. Every question I ask and why each one is there. And I want to show you something else, which is that the document sitting in front of you is almost never the thing you should be reviewing. So let us start with one real task. A manager asks someone on the team a normal question. Can we bring the launch forward by 2 weeks? Look at the information and bring me a recommendation. That is a good ask, yes. It is clear, it has a real output, and it leaves the person room to think. So the team member goes away and uses AI. It pulls the project updates together, it summarizes where things stand, it organizes the risks, it drafts the recommendation, and it builds a clean presentation. A day later, the answer comes back, yes, we can launch 2 weeks earlier. Now look at what arrives. The structure is clear, the benefits are convincing, the risks are listed properly in their own section with headings. The recommendation sounds confident. It looks finished. It looks like somebody did the work. And that is exactly where the review goes wrong. Not later, not at the lunch, right there in the room with a good document sitting on the table. Because we start reviewing the presentation, we correct a sentence, we question one number, we ask a small change, and then we approve it. We review the document. We never reviewed the decision. So pull the recommendation apart for a second and look at what it is holding up. It might be assuming the team has capacity that nobody has actually checked. It might be resting on project updates that were already weeks old by the time AI summarized them. There might be one unresolved dependency in there marked low risk because nobody ever asked what happens if that dependency slips, and it is almost certainly counting the benefit of launching early without ever naming what gets traded away to get it. Quality, testing time, the team's evenings. Every one of those is a gap in the reasoning. Not one of them is a writing problem. Now, I want to be careful here because people get this part wrong. The AI didn't lie. Let me say that again because everything else depends on it. The AI didn't lie. It may have organized exactly what it was handed accurately and well. That is not where this breaks. It breaks because an answer that looks complete produces confidence before anybody has tested the thinking. And that confidence doesn't stay in the document. It walks into the meeting, then into the decision, then into the plan. So the launch moves, and a few weeks later, that dependency comes back and it takes the quality with it. And the customer notices before the team does. And everybody ends up in a review asking how nobody saw the risk. Somebody did see it. It was in the deck. It was under risk. It has already been approved. So why does this keep getting through? These are not careless people. The manager who approved that lunch has been reviewing work for years and is good at that. They are good at it because they learned a rule that used to be completely reliable for years. The quality of work told you something real about the quality of the thinking. A rough document usually meant rough thinking. A sharp document usually meant somebody had genuinely done the work. So we all learn to read the document and trust what it told us about the person behind it. And it worked. It saved us hours. Nobody had to interrogate anybody because the work itself carried the evidence. But that rule is dead now. Anybody can produce a sharp document in few seconds. So the signal we relied on for our entire working lives has quietly stopped carrying information, and almost nobody has noticed because the documents did not get worse. What's happening? They're getting better. The rule didn't break loudly. It just stopped being true while we kept using it. Which brings me to the sentence this whole episode rests on. AI can polish the answer before the thinking is ready. Polish is not reasoning. They come from completely different places, and only one of them can be handed to a machine. AI owns polish. It cannot touch the reasoning for you. Not at all. And nearly all the risk in your decisions is sitting in the reasoning. So this is how you review work that AI helped produce. You do not open the document. You close it. You say one thing, close the deck, explain the decision. And then you listen for four things. The first one, what has to be true for this recommendation to work? Every recommendation is standing on conditions. The team has capacity, the vendor delivers on time, the data is current, and usually nobody has said those conditions out loud. Which means nobody knows which ones were checked and which ones were just assumed. Say them out loud and you find out in about a minute. And the test here is very simple. If the person cannot tell you what has to be true, they have not made a decision. They have carried one. The second one, what evidence are we relying on here? Not what the deck cites, what they actually looked at. And when they looked at it, because AI may take a document from March and summarize it in a way that reads perfectly current. It is not hiding anything from you. The problem here is nobody asked it. So ask where the numbers came from and how old they are. And quite often you find the whole recommendation is standing on ground that has already moved. The third one, what could make this wrong? This is the question that separates a listed risk from an understood one. Anything at all can go into a risk table. Anything what matters is what happens if that risk actually lands. Who it hits, what breaks, what it costs us. And if the answers come back thin, then the risk was typed, not thought about. And the fourth one, What are we giving up by choosing this? Every real decision has a trade inside it. Launching early trades something, and it is usually quality, or testing time, or people's weekends. AI is excellent at listing what you gain and very poor at naming what you are sacrificing, because nobody ever asks it to. So if nothing at all is being given up, you are not holding a decision. You are just holding a pitch. So those are the 4 questions. What has to be true? What evidence? What could make it wrong? What are we giving up? And I want to be very clear here that this is not an interrogation. You are not trying to catch anybody out. And if it feels like that, you are doing it wrong. There is only one thing you are trying to see, and it is whether AI spotted this person's thinking or quietly did it instead of them. Because somebody can hand you an excellent document without really understanding the decision inside it. And somebody else can hand you a rough document, but with very strong judgment underneath it. Those 2 people used to look completely different from across the room. Now they hand you the same deck. So run the same task again with this in it and see what moves. The manager asks the same question. The team member still uses AI exactly as before. The updates still get pulled together, the risks still get organized, the presentation still gets built. None of that speed disappears. And I'm not asking you to give any of it up. The only difference is that when the work comes back, the deck stays closed for the first 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes you find out that the capacity assumption was never checked, that 2 of the updates were from last month, that dependency was marked how risk because nobody had asked the question. Same day, same meeting, and the recommendation might still be yes, and honestly often it is, but now it is yes with somebody standing behind it. That is the whole difference. Not slower decisions, own decisions. And notice what those 4 questions actually did. They never tested the document at all. They tested whether there was a person behind it. Now I know how this sounds. 10 minutes of questions about work that somebody already spent a day preparing is going to feel like you don't trust them. Yes, I understand that, and it is a fair thing to worry about, but I think it runs the other way. What really damages trust is the version we do now, where you take the deck, quietly rewrite half of it and hand it back, because that tells the person that their formatting matters and their thinking doesn't. Here, 10 minutes of real questions tell them the opposite. And the weight of this only sits on you while people are learning it. Once a team knows those 4 questions are coming, they start asking themselves before the work ever reaches your desk, which is the point. Your reviewing gets lighter because the thinking got heavier in the right place. The hard part is not understanding any of this. The hard part is decisions waiting. Two of them not yours, and a deck in front of you that looks completely fine. Nobody skips the four questions because they disagree with them. What's happening here is they skip them because nothing in the day asks for them. The approval step asks whether the document is ready. It has never once asked whether the thinking is ready. And we all know that how it works. And that is the bigger version of this. So stay with me for one more minute. If a polished deck is enough to get something approved in an organization, then that organization has already decided that presentations counts as reasoning. Nobody wrote that rule down anywhere. Nobody would put their name to it. The workflow wrote it quietly. Every single time something well formatted went through, unchallenged. And a workflow that rewards polish is going to get more polish from everybody. Faster every quarter. So this is not a training problem. And you will not solve it by telling your managers to be more careful. It is a design decision, and nobody ever made it on purpose. So here the question was never whether the work looks ready. AI can make almost anything look ready now. The question is whether the thinking is ready, and the only way to find that out is to close the deck first and ask AI can make the answer look finished. The manager still has to know whether the thinking is finished,